May 2nd, 1900. To quell rumors, Wells wrote a letter to Denver Times. The dam has for 10 years withstood every test and attempt to produce disaster. In the past few days, he's undergone an ordeal which few dams on Earth have endured and survived. The Castlewood Dam will never in the life of any person, now living or generations to come, break to an extent that will do any great damage either to itself or others, from the water impounded and never in all time to the city of Denver. Alright, so today we are going to head to the Castlewood Canyon Dam, where, as some of you may or may not know, was where a very large flood that ran all the way through downtown Denver originated from. So we're going to head on down there and check it out. Why don't you come along? So the last time we were at Castlewood Canyon, we didn't really know as much of the history as we do now. But even back then, when we were walking around and checking it out, just looking at the architectural side of everything, it really was amazing just some of the technology they used to build this dam. And you can clearly see why this dam might have failed in the first place. It really is amazing to get up and close and personal with and just put your hands on that piece of history, especially here locally in Colorado. You're here with me today. We made the trek out here to Castlewood Canyon, and I just want to walk you through this cool little project a little bit. And we're over here in front of the pump shaft side over here, and you can kind of see the stairs up there, and down below you can actually see one of the spillway areas. And we'll kind of walk you around the back, and we'll kind of show you some of the dam's construction here. This particular dam was built in 1891. And there was a bunch of interesting facts that happened with it. Let's go take a look. Wanted to get you up a little more close and personal with one of the spillways here. This is where a bunch of the overflow water would come out of, at least one of the sides. Again, on the other side of the canyon over here, from the pictures we could find at least, it did look like there was a little bit larger spill-off section over there. But as you can see, that section is long gone. Just look at this. You can see in there. But it goes all the way back up to the dam. It actually shoots up to the top. And that's how they regulated these things that kept from overflowing the dam. It would just come out these chutes. And it was supposed to help save the dam and regulate water. From where they put in blasting caps and actually blasted these rocks apart. And that's how they got a lot of the building material for these particular types of structures back then. Was usually a lot of natural material. It wasn't so man-made. I just thought that'd be really cool to show you guys. If you look at the wall, in between all the big boulders, you can actually see how they fill the voids between the big boulders with a bunch of the smaller material, and then they mortar across it essentially, and you can see all the separate mortar marks. You can see what they have here is a little bit closer to what we would have today. It's just amazing to see it used such a long time ago. We're just going to pan right across the dam here, and if you look across the ravine here, you can actually see where the dam used to connect on the other side, all the way over there. It just gives you an idea how vast this dam was and how big of an undertaking it was all the way back then. It's amazing. Alright guys, another member of Abandoned Colorado found this really cool location. It's actually my brother Adam.
Nice to meet you guys.
We just wanted to bring you up a little bit closer and personal again with the dam, and right here is actually really cool. You can see all the different layers and just actually how girthy this dam actually was, and yet it still failed. But I mean, if you look down in here, you can actually see they built it similar to how most people would imagine a pyramid's built. And again, if you look across almost every stone in here, you can see where they had drilled and placed their dynamite to blast apart their building blocks.
A.M.Welles, who was the chief engineer of the Castlewood Canyon Dam. And I think it's really cool to see this placard in commemoration of somebody who helped such a big achievement and failure.
There is an estimated 1.7 billion gallons behind this dam. Now just imagine that water level all the way across this vast open area over here. Now, from the get-go, this dam had leaks. They did make repairs on it, but even as you can see now today, just looking down across the top of the dam, you can see how the face of the dam is starting to peel away almost right down the middle of it. And it is hard to say. Part of that could be due to its age and not being upkept, but it does make you think, doesn't it? What's kind of funny about this, in March of 1901, farmers were complaining because the dam didn't have any water in it. There was no water. The engineer said there was no risk of the dam failure because it wasn't holding any water. There was no water to hold. Now again, guys, I want you to imagine behind me 1.7 billion gallons of water. After days of pounding rain, the dam finally let loose, which released with it a 15-foot tidal wave that carried itself all the way to Denver, causing $1 million worth of damage in Denver alone. Destroyed cropland, farms, ranches, all of it. We're actually standing at what used to be Lake Louisa, which they described as a paradise on the prairie. People from all around used to come here to boat, fish, picnic, the whole 9 yards. Now again, we're standing in a different part of what used to be Lake Louisa, kind of on the lower section of the dam here. Now just imagine, again, all that water crushing through that section of dam and just barreling its way down, all the way down to Denver. All right, so we left the dam and we're gonna head to Denver itself and follow some of the tracks of where this flood actually came through and what might have happened in downtown Denver itself. We're actually gonna meet a fellow Abandoned Colorado member, Preston, and he's gonna tell us a little bit more about what happened further north from the Castlewood Canyon Dam. All right, guys, welcome back. We're downstream from the Castlewood Canyon Dam. We're actually in Denver. So I brought a Denver liaison in here to help us out with some information.
Hi there, Alan. Good to see you.
Good to see you again.
Right behind us, we've got a wall about 15 feet high. Over the edge was a building, which we'll be touching on shortly, very important to Denver. This is where the water from the Cherry Creek flooded up and over and destroyed that structure. Some might ask why the citizens were so quick to be concerned and why they would even care. And a large reason for that was the flood of Cherry Creek. It caused lots of damage. Here at the landmark of the first Rocky Mountain newspaper in the Rocky Mountain Gold region. It was erected in 1859 and due to a very vicious flood was tore down in 1864. The water rose over 15-foot tall walls and destroyed the entire building. Due to this, the citizens of Denver were very, very against creating a dam in Castlewood Canyon due to concerns that simply the same thing would happen to them in their houses and their buildings down there. Across from the landmark for the newspaper, we have a landmark for Auraria, where the Cherry Creek midstream was the boundary in which it was created. That was in 1858, a year before the creation of the newspaper. The idea was first brought up in 1889 by the Colorado General Assembly. While the Colorado General Assembly was toiling over trying to get the dam approved, the Denver Water Storage Company just went ahead and did it. In 1901, the citizens have fully become angered at the idea of a dam. Behind me I've got an old bridge here. The water rose all the way up to those green handlebars for a good comparison of how high those waters really were. I'm standing on the actual bridge itself, whereas if you pan down you can see that most of the floorboards have been tore up by the waters rising. Eventually the Denver Suburban Home and Water Company took over. They acquired land downstream on which they planted 900 cherry trees. In 1912, the cherry tree scheme encountered many difficulties with planting many cherry trees due to their fast dying rates. In 1923, after years of trying, the plan was entirely reinvented and the land was reportioned back to its original owners.
Alright, we're on the corner of 15th and Wynkoop here, and we're actually probably about an 1/8 mile away from Cherry Creek itself. If you look down the way there, you can actually see the Wynkoop bridge that we were just at. The water came all the way up to here.
The water tore all the way up to 13th Street, where it was damaging concrete walls and structures until it finally overflowed some walls right onto Spear Street. Myself and Alan are standing right now next to Cherry Creek, right on 14th Street. The waters rose all the way up and extended straight up to 15th Street and all the way down to 13th Street. Seriously high, very dangerous waters. Alan?
And there actually was one death in the Denver area from the Castlewood Dam collapse. Tom Casey was the gentleman's name. He was about 83 years old. He went to save some items from his homestead, fell, got trapped in the water, and led to his demise. And one of the other deaths that had actually occurred from the Castlewood Canyon Dam was a young lady by the name of Bertha. And she had actually gotten on her horse and went down to the floodwaters to see what was going on, and something had spooked the horse, and her horse had actually thrown her into the floodwaters.
In 1933, the damages from the dam breaking and flooding were assessed to be about $1 million. That was in 1933. If you bring it up to 2013, 80 years later, it would be about $19 million in damages.
Alright guys, welcome back. We have gone almost full circle around this major flood area, and we are back where we started our journey here in Denver. Now, due to the original Cherry Creek minor flood incident that happened, there was actually a petition. Would you like to touch on that?
Absolutely. So, citizens were really angry, especially with the lack of footholds, which I believe you guys discovered at the canyon when you visited.
Exactly, and we will cut some footage of that in there and actually show you a section where you can see the lack of the foothold for this large size dam. Alright, we're down here at the base of the dam, and you can actually see the underside of the footer here. And if you look at the ground level to the bottom of the footer, you can see that it's only maybe, call it 2 to 5 feet in the ground, and that would fail for most residential retaining walls that most people have in their backyard these days. Then you can see all the air voids, and I mean, the technology wasn't as good back then, but you can definitely see why there might be so many potential spots of failure.
It's absolutely brutal, and due to that, the citizens really wanted to push something forward, so they spoke to the mayor themselves and made a nice petition. In response, Denver Water Storage Company sent their very own W.F. Alexander, who reviewed the reports and characterized them as a low-lived attack from prejudiced persons who deliberately falsified their statements. The idea of a flood in Denver as a result of the breaking of the dam is simply ridiculous.
So if you enjoy the Abandoned Colorado series, go ahead and click on my right over here to some of our videos. If you want to see more videos by Culz Productions, go ahead and check out the videos on my left. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if we missed something, leave it in the comments below.
We did it.
That is a wrap for